Nurse, we've got no pulse. Call the crash team. Oh wait. Switch it on. Still nothing. Today we've got an M5 ECU that's dead. So the customer contacted me about a week ago. He said he was updating some software on his car. I think he was planning to do his light module, and somehow he updated the engine ECU, and after that nothing worked. So we're going to have a look and see what's gone wrong. I'm fairly sure that because anything in this could be software, then it's bound to be fixable. First thing I always tend to do on these is see if they're actually going to draw any power. So he's plugged into my special little breakout box. We'll flip our ignition switch, and yes, we have power. So he is at least alive in there. Next thing to do then is see if it'll talk on Diagnostic. So flip the power on. We've got power. We'll go in and select our ECU, engine, 8-cylinder, MSS 52. And no communication. Trying the next thing now, which is tool 32. We have him set to ID. Hit run. And yes, there we go. We have part numbers, so he is alive, just he can't communicate in the normal way. So tool 32 is quite a clever program. That does a lot of almost like command line messages forward and back to the ECU. And it's able to get into stuff which would be, I suppose, the bootloader really. So when you're updating these, they always tend to keep a little bit of software that's going to stay the bootloader, I suppose you could imagine. So you can always get in and program stuff. When something's going to get updated, it has to erase the contents of the ECU. And that means then it's not going to function the way it should do. But they always need a way of getting back in. So you'll often have a bootloader or just the absolute bare minimum for it to be able to communicate and then take a new file. So what we're going to do now is we'll have a look with WinKFP, see if we can communicate and see if we can reprogram it. So we have our ECU plugged in, we have him powered up, we have him on our INPA lead. This one does have the eDiabas lib firmware on it, although it shouldn't really be needed for this particular kind of ECU. Some later E90 stuff, you've got to have that eDiabas lib software on there or it will screw up your modules. And we'll now get into WinKFP and we'll see what we can do. So we're going to go comfort mode. We're going to go for an update, and this is going to just automatically select what software to put on there based on the numbers it can read. And we've read those numbers out of tool 32, so we know it can talk. Pick one of those, enter our VIN number. Okay. Done. Program update. And it's going to be the same number. So in this case, it was already on the latest version, which is there. And it's just going to update it again to that one. So click OK, and let's see what happens. We can still be programmed 12 times. So we know the flash counter hasn't run into any issues. There is a flash counter in these ECUs, and they'll only take a certain number of programming. So in this one, it looks like we're good. And we do have a fault. Okay, in that case then, looks like we're going to have to go deeper. We're inside. Now I've had a look over this. I don't see anything obviously burnt, no kind of damage, which is what I'd expect from software issues. And we're going to now have to have a look at some of these memory chips. So inside these, we do have two processors, two memory chips, and everything is kind of doubled up. So it's almost like two ECUs in one. One side handles fueling, one side handles injection. I think the Vanos is in one of these sides as well. Throttle might be in the other one. But these are the chips there and there that we're going to have a look into. as I think some of those are going to have some issues. Remember to note down the orientation on these. So we have a dot in this corner for this chip, and this one we're over here. So that marks where pin 1 is. So they do face in different directions. This one, I'll put a dot and a dot. This one, I'm going to put a dot, 2 dots rather. Let's make it worthwhile. And 2 dots on that one. So at least now I'm not going to mix up the chips. It's soldering time. Fire up our hot air station. We're setting to about 380 degrees, and we're going to get ourselves lined up with our little chip lifter. If I can get them in. And that's the 2 of them off. The first chip in the socket now. We have our programmer set to 29F200, which is our correct chip type. And we'll go for a read. Poor contact. Bit of a wiggle. And there we go. Now we're making a better contact and we're getting our read. Okay, we are going to save that as chip 1 M5, and we will say that one is original. And now we're also going to have to swap the byte order. So we'll go into our edit, swap, 2-byte word. Okay. Save again. Swapped. As the chips are stored in, I don't know if it's high-low or low-high, or whatever it is, it's the other way around to how you normally read it out of the OBD port. And there's the second chip, and we'll go again, hit read. And that's it. So we will, same sort of thing again. We will change this to chip 2. Let's try and get that correct. Chip 2, original, save. And then again, edit, swap bytes, 2-word width. Okay. And save as swapped. So that's our data read out of it. Now we're going to have a look and see what's going on with that. And there we have our smoking gun. So this is the original one, and this section here, it's all blank. So 8,000, address 8,000 onwards, that's where the map should have been, and it's all been erased. And we have it here in a file that I've repaired from backups that I've got. So I've copied that stuff over, put the file back to where it was, and let's see what happens. So I'm guessing during the programming, it managed to erase the chips and it had some kind of fault, program it back in. So the first chip had a massive blank section in. The second one, we did have some data there at the start, and then it sort of dropped off. So something went wrong with the writing. And though usually you will get WinKFP to catch it back up, but in this case, I'm guessing what's happened is it stopped somewhere and it's doing the equivalent of a blue screen now. And for some reason, the software is so sort of corrupted that it's not able to communicate properly and get back in. But we'll fix it the manual way, solder those chips back in, and then see what we're doing. So I load in my file. Now I repaired this with a chipster full read, so that's the name of it. Chip 1 repaired, full read, need swapping. So loaded in. It's loaded, edit, byte swap, and that puts it back to how it was before. And then we go program. Device is blank, but it's going to erase it now. And verify. And we're done. So we'll solder them back in and see what we're doing. So now we've got to go and stick the chips back on. So the first thing we'll do, we'll clean up our solder pads. Get a bit of flux on them. And we've got a bit of solder wick. Now, here's something interesting. This is goot wick, or apparently it is, because this come from eBay, but look at that. Unless copper has changed to being magnetic recently, I don't think that's genuine. That's what their stuff should be like. So I'll use this stuff. The goot wick, it's still, well, I say the goot wick, it's not goot wick, but the fake stuff still works because it is still covered in copper. But might as well use something proper. So we give a clean up on those side. Clean up on that one. To our other chip. A little bit of flux, don't need to go too crazy. Back in. Him done. And that one. A little bit more there, a little bit hiding in the back. Okay, so now we can get our chips back on. So we have, that's chip 2. He will sit over there, dot up. Chip 1, dot down on that side. So I've got him lined up on the pads first, and now all I need to do is give it a couple little dabs, which will just tack it on and hold it steady. And then I can take my hands away. Now I can get on this side. And that's only just using the slight bits of solder that's left around on the pin legs. And that's enough just to hold him steady. Now we'll go and get more solder. So we're just going to feed in a little bit more of this thin wire and just go up and down the legs, melt some stuff in, and you'll see it tends just to stick to where the metal is. We'll get a bit on there first, and then we'll go and tidy him up. So once he's tacked with a bit of solder on, get that lead out the way for you. Just going to go through and reheat those legs, and then the solder, the flux rather, will help everything move just to exactly where we want it to go. Now I've got a very awkward angle on this thing, but we'll manage. And that's one of the things I do. I'll just dab it in, and when you see it shaking up and down the leg, you know, you got it. There's a few extra bits on the top that we want to clean off. So we're mostly there. So I'm going to give that a solder now on the other side, stick the other chip on, then go over it, have a closer look and see how we're done. So that's them soldered on now, chip 1 and chip 2. I'm just giving a clean up with alcohol afterwards to get rid of some flux residue, bit of a damp with a cloth to soak up the excess. So now we're ready to power him up and see what happens. Got him hooked up now, hit our power, and we're drawing current. So he is alive and he's awake. Now we're going to go with diagnostics. Well, after a short intermission for me, I had to catch the post office. I hadn't got my letter to Santa done just yet, but now we get the chance to have a look. So input fired up, actually switch him on would be a good idea. 8-cylinder M5.2, and we're in. Lovely. So we go in, and that should be our VIN number. I will need to double check that. And faults, let's have a look through this and see what we've got. Throttle potentiometers, pedal. There's the fuel pump relay not connected, as we've only just got the bare minimum of power on, so it communicates. So it is complaining about a lot of stuff that isn't there. EWS code, and that's it. Good. So one of the things you want to avoid is any fault codes about internal issues with processors and masters and slave things. If you got anything like that, then that tends to be something internal in one of these, and then you're pretty much out of luck. So what I've done on this one, the software in there seemed a little bit odd. So the software that I could see, there were some numbers in there and there were some partial bits of the software, but from the numbers I could see and the partial bits of software, they weren't lining up. So it's almost as if it has been reprogrammed in the tuning way before, which doesn't update the UIF numbers, which are the software numbers stored inside the engine ECU, but it does change the software, as they didn't seem to match up between what the ECU reckons it's going to have and what I saw on there. And what I saw on there, there was a lot of stuff missing anyway. So I used then a couple of files that I have from chips from ones of these again. This one, chip 1, has the VIN number in, so I had to alter the VIN number. This one has the EWS code in, had to alter the EWS on that. But other than that, the software is left exactly the same. So those are the important bits. And what I'm going to do now is reprogram them, because this is on some other software, but we did see earlier on with WinKFP what it was and what it was planning to program it to. So I'll just do a quick double check and make sure we're on the version that this should be. And now the programming side. So I also I forgot to mention, I did reset the flash counter on these as well. Not that it's massively important. You do have maybe 20 flashes or something before it starts causing issues, but I was in there anyway, so might as well reset them. So now WinKFP comfort mode, we're going to go for let's try an update first off, and we're looking for 7953, I believe was the number. So let's have a look and see what I'll go to. That would go to something different. Right, so we're going to cancel. Comfort mode. Choose. And that one. And we were looking for 7953. VIN numbers in. Done. Program. 13 times left. that 13 times is from the UIF. So that's the bit where it stores various bits and pieces about the data, last time programmed by who, that kind of stuff. That's different to the flash counter. But the flash counter is a couple of digits that are inside of there. There are tools you can get where you can reset the flash counter to the diagnostic port. But in this case, I've done it there through the chips anyway. So we'll just let this program through now. Well, I got myself a coffee. It's one of my favourite mugs with a digger on it. Not the fastest kind of thing for programming, but as long as it's getting there, as long as the blue bar's going in the right direction, then just sit and let it wait. Well, you wouldn't want to be in a hurry. So the coffee's finished. That's probably about 10 minutes or so. We're getting into the final stages now. I imagine this is going to be two-stage programming. So this longer, slower section is the program area, and that's more like the operating system. And then the final bit, it'll go in afterwards, and that's the maps. So in the maps, you'd have the difference between auto and manual. You wouldn't have auto and manual on these. On EU3 versus EU4, US versus UK, and so on. So there we go. Again, it says you're on a program. This is our second stage now. This will be just the map section. You can see this one is racing through a lot quicker. So sometimes if you're going through and the program area is already done, you'll only just get this quicker, smaller section of just the maps. Sometimes it might have an update for absolutely everything, and then it'll go through in the longer first section. So we're just carrying through on this now. Wait till it finishes up, and then we'll check it all out and see how it's doing. And there we go, programming okay. So we can close that down, shut down all of this, and we can go back and have a look in INPA. After your program, it's always good to switch them off, allow them to reboot again from cold, grab all the data. And now we should see pretty much everything the same as we did before. Yeah, we're getting into our faults. And we should have all the same faults, as that's stored in a different part of memory. So we'll scroll through these quickly. Yeah, there's some of those misfires. And that's all looking good. So yeah, nothing particularly worrying. No internal errors, no EEPROM master, EEPROM slave, internal processor fault and that kind of stuff. So that's him. That's good to go. So I'll stick him back in the case. And now for the difficulty rating. We have tier 3 on the physical side. There is soldering needed, and you would need to have experience in that. That's not something you're just going to wing it. But on the software side, this is going to be tier 2. So fairly simple, but you would need to at least know stuff about your VIN numbers and where your EWS is. But apart from that, it's copying stuff over and just sticking one file into another. So there we go. Job done. Everything ready, and now time to just get him boxed up, sent off to the customer, and we're away. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Come on, show me your eyes. There you go.